Hi, I'm Helga from Helga's Pennsylvania Cooking. Today we're going to be working on a Shoo Fly cake. Shoo Fly cake is basically a molasses cake. There's also Shoo Fly Pie. The Shoo Fly Pie I don't make as much just because I prefer the cake myself personally. It's an easy cake to whip up. It's eggless and it's been iconic PA Dutch recipe as you can probably get around here. As to where the name came from, the most logical explanation seems to be that with the sweet ingredients, they would mix up the pies or cakes, put them out on the sills to cool, and flies would come sit, and so they would say, shoo fly, and the name stuck. That's one thought. Another story is that this is really a French recipe, the crumb topping resembling cauliflower, which I guess in French is cheux-fleur, although I don't speak any French, so I butchered that terribly. However, it was eventually pronounced as Shoo Fly, but all of us here have a problem with that because, we don't see any of this in any of the French fancy restaurants ever served or ever in any French recipes. So we'll stick with the PA Dutch heritage of this. Also, Shoo Fly pies are soundly Pennsylvania Dutch. I don't know where that they're made anywhere else. And they were originally made with sorghum and brown sugar. Later came the molasses, and if you get molasses, you want the really good blackstrap molasses, not sulfured in any way. And the hybrid cake, this is basically considered the cake. The pie came first. The cake is a hybrid, but I really like this. It's a nice moist cake. It's really rich and not as dense as the pie is. So we're going to get together here and work on our Shoo Fly cake. Okay, so the cake is made in two parts. You make the crumbs first, which comes out to a little better than 4 cups worth. Set that aside. Then you mix the activated part. That's the molasses, the baking soda, and hot water. And you'll see that makes it frothy. Then you add the crumbs, and then we keep a cup back of the reserve crumbs for the top. A little note, I don't know if most people know it. I have always done this. Baking soda, of course, is really good for taking your aromas and smells out of refrigerators and, always helping clean that way. But if you leave it open, it's going to absorb every smell in the world. That's what it's supposed to do. However, if you keep it for baking, you don't want that. You don't want every smell in the world when you're baking. So I tend to keep it in a plastic baggie. It keeps it fresh and it keeps any outside smells from coming in and it keeps it from getting stale. Just a thought. So we're going to start putting this together. It's 4 cups of flour and 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of shortening. A note about shortening. I'm using butter today. It calls for shortening. Shortening is 100% fat, basically lard. Butter can be used anytime shortening is. The only difference is it's 85% fat, 15% water. So it will change your texture a little bit. For most of the time, I'm okay with that. I like the butter taste a lot, and so I'm okay with that. The only time that I really insist on using lard, I do with my pie pastries most of the time, and even that's a half and half. You have the half part that is lard, that really gives it that good flavor, but then the other part with butter helps give it those little air pockets that make it nice and flaky and still give it the butter taste as well, making it really rich. I mean, if you're going all out and clog the arteries, you might as well just slam them shut. Everything in moderation. So 1 cup of shortening, or butter in this case, and a pinch of salt. And it calls for a pinch of cinnamon. I'm big on cinnamon. I love the cinnamon with this. I tend to add a lot of cinnamon to the dishes that call for it because we really like it. So it's probably a little bit, it's a big pinch. But it's really good. Now let me get my blender, my pastry blender out. This is actually really good for making up the crumbs. And just work this in. A lot of these were really economical recipes. Some of these even came from the Depression era too. I mean, this is very iconic Pennsylvania Dutch, but a lot of recipes that the old church suppers and church dinners used around here really utilized economy because, during that time period they didn't have access to a lot of good stuff. Really blend this in. You can see all the little pieces of the butter working out there. Really makes it yummy. And we're going to reserve 1 cup of this back for the top. You want to try and really work it in. You don't want it super fine, but you want to make sure that all your sugar and flour were well mixed and that you got the whole crumb thing going on here. That's not bad. And I'm going to take a good heaping cup of this and set this aside. So that's our mixture there. Then we're going to mix the activating part together, and that is going to be the 1.5 cup of molasses, boy, that smells good. Everything was molasses, good and sweet and sticky. 2 cups of hot water. Yes, I'm old-fashioned. I still have a tea kettle and I like my tea kettle. And I'm a tea drinker overall instead of coffee. Coffee's okay once in a while, but I'm mostly a tea drinker. Get our 2 cups of hot water in. And 1.5 cup baking soda. Oh, that's fizzing up. I don't know if you can see it here. See how it's fizzing up? Look how it's fizzing up. That's the baking soda activating in there with the molasses. You know, we used to have science experiments like this in school. We used to make little submarines go. So now we're going to add, it's fizzing up nice. Now we're going to add the rest of our crumbs. Make the cake part. Mix this in good. Now I'm going to whisk it a little finer. And it's kind of a, it looks kind of a watery cake, but it's pretty medium. It's not any waterier than my chocolate cake recipe is. So we have that come together here. And you see it looks really, really chocolatey. So that's pretty good. I have my pan here already greased and ready to go. Pour that in. This is going to bake at 350 degrees in the oven. Let's see, where's my crumbs? Here's my crumbs. For about 45 minutes. Now we're going to sprinkle the crumbs on top here. Try and get it somewhat even. You don't want it all sinking down. Just, you know, it's just easier when I do it this way. Messier, but easier. And this is okay. So there we go. Last of it. And there you go. So that's what it looks like going into the oven. So I'm going to put that in the oven and we'll come back in 45 minutes when she's done baking. Well, everybody, it's been 45 minutes. We're going to take our Shoo Fly cake out of the oven. Oh. And there she is. Get a good look at this. See the nice crumbs on top. I like to let it cool before I cut into it. But I can try and do that now and just see if I can show you the texture, what it looks like. Let's see here. This is so good with a really tall, cold glass of milk. There. Steaming warm goodness. That is really hot. It's also really good. So there you go. There's some shoo fly cake for you. Maybe another time we'll try the shoo fly pie. But now you know how to make an iconic PA Dutch shoo fly cake. Enjoy.